the Green Lantern Corps. Sorry, my recording device only has 10 minutes and I completely forgot to look at the time. So, anyway, they invented a second army that they like to call it. They like to call it the Second Army. That's why it's actually the third or the fourth, but yeah, they created the Green Lantern Corps, which harnessed the emotional energy of willpower, which isn't actually an emotion, but it does create green energy, apparently, which is what they use in the rings, and what the Guardians themselves, as you can see here, look at them, kicking ass, taking names. That dude right there, the blue guy, that's the Anti-Monitor. Yeah, there was a great huge story about him, like absorbing all of the multiverses into himself, and it took 2.5 universe worths of heroes to oppose him. Just not to beat him, but like to just slow him down. And now, what is it, like 10 Guardians here? Just 10 of these little blue guys are stopping him, kicking his ass, essentially, just like wiping the floor with him. It goes on for another few pages about them kicking him all around the Earth. Then he finally gets a planet dropped on him, and it's like, okay, and anywho, so they decided to do that. Well, ever since the actual inception of the Green Lantern comics back in like I think it was the early 70s, late 60s, one of those two, they've kind of been very shadowy, back then. They weren't always there, but whenever they did appear, they always gave sage advice, in the manner of like, mountain hermits, but kind of like on a, inside a technological kind of cave. Of course, later on, it became necessary for them to be actually part of this comic, not like a shadowy kind of mentor class of people, but actually out there doing something. So the creators of the comic devised a backstory where the Guardians travelled across space from their home world of Multus and came to the very centre of the universe, to a planet called Oa, and became Owens. Well, they had a few split-offs. We've discovered in recent years that a lot of other races throughout the DC universe are actually branch-offs of the Guardians, such as the Zamarons, who are the females of their race, who long ago thought that it was heretical to think that being fully emotionless was a good thing. They believed that love, compassion, and hope was still needed. So they kept that, they went off, and later on a bunch of the other Guardians, the male Guardians still around, thought, well, maybe we shouldn't be trying to protect life as such by, stopping them in the manner of a police force, but actually controlling them like tyrants, like emperors, and they had the power to do it. But the other Guardians said, no, can't do that, that would be bad. That'd be bad. That'd be using our power to impose order. That's might makes right, and that's wrong. So, of course, a bunch of the other ones went off and became the Controllers, which you might have seen in, like, the Legion of Superheroes. But, yeah, they branched off a couple of times, came back together, etc., etc. They did whatever they wanted to. But they became, like, these small blue midgets in the red robes. And they still have unbelievable godlike powers. In the time when Kyle Rayner first became a Green Lantern, he was, he went to a planet, it was blown to crap, and then Ganthet, who's like my favourite Guardian of all, like just descends from the heavens like a freaking seraphim, waves his hand, and oh, planet's fixed. Now, a problem that people have with the Guardians is that they are given the unenviable position of the boss. The boss, which means that they have to be assholes. They have to be. It's their role. Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, Guy Gardner, they're all the protagonists. They're the heroes. They have to go out there, and if they don't save even one person, there's a whole story arc devoted to them being miserable emo. Anyway, And the Guardians are more practical. If anyone's watched the film, there's a brilliant line by a Guardian called Sade who said, "We cannot, in good conscience, sacrifice the entire universe for the sake of one planet." You can't sacrifice 1,000,000 to save one, which anyone with a brain can think, oh yeah, sacrifice 1,000,000 people to save one person. I'm sure that person will be very grateful. Yes. And people seem to think this is bad. This is a bad ideology. Of course, Hal Jordan and the rest of them do manage to save both that one person and the 1,000,000 people. So, all ends up great anyway, and the Guardians are shown to just be prudish. Well, after many, many, many decades of this treatment, basically, it always occurred to me that the only reason the Guardians didn't just stick a gun to their heads was because they're emotionless, and this saved them from being exasperated by just basically being shown the middle finger at every instance. And no one seems to get this, that the Guardians are just trying to do their immortal, eternal job. They always think, oh, the Guardians have an agenda. Yeah, they have an agenda. Save the fucking universe. But no, they do it wrong. Every problem ends up to... The writers make it so that almost every problem they face happens to be the Guardians' fault to begin with. Like the Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter's problem with fire. Years and years, like centuries ago, the Martians became a terrible, imperial kind of race that was going to go off into the stars, and because they have great psychic powers and transformation powers, they were going to just rip the out of the universe. It was going to be terrible. So the Guardians went there first, wiped out a whole bunch of them that was, trying to fight them, and then genetically modified them to be afraid of fire. Which, to me, made sense. Of course, writers these days, oh, we've got to find a problem so we can get a storyline. But of course it demonizes the Guardians for not wanting to commit genocide. Might as well just wipe them all out and be done with it. No, we've got to save lives. Yeah, that's bad, has consequences later. Finally, in recent times, the Guardians have eventually gone off the frickin' deep end. They've gone mad. After this latest story arc, War of the Green Lanterns, when Krona returned, lo and behold, he's back. And, of course, he fought Hal Jordan, and Hal Jordan beat him with the ring. But the ring was supposed to not be able to kill Guardians. They programmed it that way so that no one could rebel. But he did it anyway. So that apparently, that's all we know so far, instilled fear in the Guardians, and this finally tipped him over the deep end. So of course now, the writers, I'm not sure who it is, I suspect Jeff Johns, thank you Jeff Johns for all of this, have finally turned them into bad guys. The Guardians re-brought in, they banished Ganthet a while ago for being in love with Sade, but they brought him back in and basically emotionally lobotomized him, bringing him into the fold. And then they instituted something called the Third Army, which is the current storyline, the rise of the Third Army. The Third Army is made from the Guardians' own flesh. It was kind of creepy. They were in a cemetery of all places, and then they kind of linked hands, and right out of their skin, out of their faces and everything, just came this flesh, and this new alien thing just appeared. It's actually kind of awesome. But it turns out that these things are designed to go out and absorb all life everywhere, and finally stop people being themselves. They're going to eliminate free will. Now, I'm sorry, but it seems to me that if people would stop being such rotchy bastards towards the Guardians, maybe they wouldn't have lost faith in life. Would it really kill you to, save the planet that they tell you to save, instead of going off and saving that one ship? Because it's all very well and good, oh yes, we saved the ship and we saved the planet. Yeah, the volcanoes killed about 3 million people before you managed to save the planet. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Guardians are bad. I don't know. I don't believe that people are intrinsically evil. I think actions are evil. What they're doing now, yeah, but they're insane. It's confirmed. It's canon. Goodbye.